The Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. It was a hot, fiery ball of molten rock. Gradually, it cooled down, the surface solidified, and oceans formed. The early Earth was a very different place from the world we know today. There were violent storms and volcanic eruptions, yet in this chaotic environment life emerged. The exact details of how life began are still a mystery. However, we know that the building blocks of life, organic molecules, formed in these early oceans. Over millions of years, these molecules assembled themselves into more complex structures. Eventually, they formed the first self-replicating molecules, the precursors to life as we know it. The first life forms on Earth were simple, single-celled organisms called prokaryotes. They lived in the oceans, far below the surface. These early prokaryotes were anaerobic. They didn't need oxygen to survive. In fact, oxygen was toxic to them. They obtained energy from chemicals released from hydrothermal vents. These early life forms were incredibly successful. They thrived for billions of years. They slowly changed the planet. They released oxygen as a byproduct of their metabolism. This gradually filled the atmosphere with oxygen, paving the way for a new era of life. Around 2.5 billion years ago, a new type of cell emerged, the eukaryote. Eukaryotic cells were larger and more complex than prokaryotes. They had a nucleus which contained their DNA. They also had other organelles which performed specific functions within the cell. The evolution of eukaryotic cells was a major milestone in the history of life. It allowed for the development of more complex organisms, including plants, animals, and fungi. The key to this complexity lay in a process called endosymbiosis. In this process, one prokaryotic cell engulfed another. Instead of being digested, the engulfed cell survived and continued to live inside the host cell. They formed a symbiotic relationship, each benefiting the other. Section 4. Outburst of life, the Cambrian explosion. About 540 million years ago, life on Earth underwent a dramatic transformation. This period, known as the Cambrian explosion, saw an unprecedented burst of evolutionary innovation. In a relatively short time, a dazzling array of new life forms appeared. These creatures evolved hard shells, skeletons, and complex body plans. They filled the oceans with a kaleidoscope of shapes and sizes. This period marked the beginning of the Paleozoic era, the age of ancient life. Many of the major animal groups we know today, including arthropods, mollusks, and vertebrates, first appeared during this time. Section 5. Conquering the land, a new frontier. For billions of years, life had thrived in the oceans. The land was a barren and hostile environment. However, about 475 million years ago, life began to colonize the land. This was a major challenge. Life had to adapt to a completely new set of conditions. Plants were among the first organisms to make the transition to land. They evolved roots to anchor themselves in the soil and absorb water and nutrients. They developed a waxy coating to prevent water loss. Animals soon followed. The first land animals were arthropods, such as insects and spiders. They evolved exoskeletons to protect themselves from predators and prevent dehydration. Section 6. The reign of reptiles and the rise of mammals. A tale of two eras. The Mesozoic era, which began about 250 million years ago, was the age of reptiles. Dinosaurs, the most famous group of reptiles, ruled the Earth for over 180 million years. They evolved into a spectacular variety of forms, from the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex to the long-necked Brachiosaurus. However, the reign of the dinosaurs came to an abrupt end about 66 million years ago. A massive asteroid collided with Earth, causing widespread devastation and climate change. This event, known as the KPG extinction, wiped out the dinosaurs and many other species. In the aftermath of this extinction, mammals who had lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs began to diversify and evolve. This marked the beginning of the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. Mammals evolved to fill the ecological niches left vacant by the dinosaurs. They eventually gave rise to our own lineage, the primates.